Hi, I'm Dr. Vincent Bellonzi, and if you haven't checked out my book, please go to any of the major booksellers and check out Health Recklessly Abandoned. Some of the things I talked about in these videos are actually outlined in the book. I wanted to mention today, I had the question earlier in the clinic, and I was trying to give a short explanation, but the question was, what's the best exercise? What one thing can I do? And if you know any of my other videos, it's not what one thing you can do, it's about how you put together what you're trying to accomplish. Whether you're a top athlete, there's an athlete in all of you, or whether you're just trying to be healthy. You can't just do one thing. Well, you can, but you're not going to get the same results. So for example, there's different aspects of exercise, different advantages to different types of exercise. Depending on what I do, I can get somewhat a different result. So there's things that people like to do, there's things that people don't like to do, but in a sense, you do have to do a good mix. So first of all, if you're just doing one thing, you're going to develop, say, one skill, one pathway, one ability. And what you want to do is called cross-training. We're not talking about any special different system or video or whatever. We're talking about across the board getting different results from different things. I'll give you an example. A lot of runners, especially runners that I used to train, they had this idea that all they had to do was run. And many of them got extremely sick because they would end up actually utilizing their muscle tissue for fuel, getting very wasted in their look, basically become what's called catabolic. They break down their tissues. They're not very healthy. So if you can get somebody to cross-train, then they get the benefit of building stronger joints, muscles, ligaments, all that. They get the benefit, if they're cross-training, of having different aerobic abilities. They get the benefit of also building endurance, and they get the benefit of being able to move more gracefully and more biomechanically sound. But you have to do different things to accomplish this. If you're a runner, you can't just run and get the same benefit. So I divided it up into 4 different aspects. We could divide it even more. But first of all, you've got to be at a certain level of conditioning. Too many people go out there and try to do more than they can all in one day. Of course, we have delayed onset muscle soreness. We have a lot of other symptoms. You can minimize that. If you haven't worked out for a long time, you might get some soreness. It's pretty common. But what you'll find is if you continue to work out, that you don't get a soreness anymore. Your body gets accustomed to the workouts, and the next thing you know, your body can handle quite a bit of exercise and intensity and not even get sore. But when you do something new, you might get some. The point is that for strength and stability, muscle leanness that you need the muscle tissue for many purposes. You've got to be able to build muscle. Well, studies have shown that protein synthesis does not even begin unless the body is signaled to have the need for bigger, stronger muscles, right? More cells, bigger cells. But basically, when I do enough, say, strength training, or I put enough stress on a muscle, I'm going to stimulate that protein synthesis and start building muscle. If I don't, if I just walk, or if I do low intensity exercise, I'm probably not going to build any muscle at all. I don't have any reason to adapt because I haven't pushed my body beyond what it's capable of doing already. So you have to consider the fact that it takes enough force. Weight training is probably one of the most effective ways to do this. There are certain aspects of other exercise that can build muscle too, but it has to be out of the comfort zone. It has to be a little bit more than your body's used to so the adaptation occurs. And I'm talking about starting right at the level of your DNA. So we do weights or other resistance type activities in order to put strength in our muscles, bones, and ligaments. Not just for size, not just for shape, that's something that people desire as well, but for strength and stability, and for the integration of muscle movement or physical movement that requires a certain sequence of muscle activation. For the nerves to be able to activate the muscle and send a stronger signal to get a better contraction. All this is going to require working against a force. And then you've got to consider having aerobic capacity. You're not going to gain aerobic capacity if you're already accustomed to walking by walking. You need to do some kind of tempo work, some kind of increase or decrease in intensity. You usually do a very intense period along with a rest period. It can vary anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes. We're not talking about a long activity, but we're talking about doing things in a tempo. We're talking about getting your intensity up higher than you're accustomed to, and then recovering from that and doing that several times in the workout. Now I'm going to stimulate some pathways. Now I'm going to stimulate mitochondria to grow. I'm going to even stimulate the production of some new mitochondria, which means I make more energy. I'm going to be able to go faster if I get my body accustomed to a faster pace. I get changes because I'm pushing it and my body adapts. I also want to be functional, so I have to work on my balance and my range of motion. I have to actually move. If I'm training for a sport, I want to be more specific to that sport. So I'm going to do movements and activities that will help me enhance my skills. But life is a skill, right? Getting through the house without running into things. I mean, being graceful just as you move is a skill. Balance is one of the first things that we see going in the geriatric population. People, as they get older, end up having more falls. They can't recover as quickly. For some, it's the beginning of the end. So we want to work on our balance and our movement and our gracefulness. And you can do functional training to do that. There's Pilates, there's yoga, there's TRX, there's all these different systems that you can do to help you learn to move more effectively and teach your body the right integration through the nervous system and through all the tissues. And then you need to have some endurance. We all want to be able to go a little further, a little faster. It doesn't mean you have to run marathons, but we want to build endurance. And the best way to build endurance is to put the body in a situation where it has to have endurance. So commonly we'll do longer type exercise, something perhaps lasting over an hour, because the problem is you don't have to necessarily depend on fat within an hour's time. You've probably got enough glycogen to last you, and your body can do pretty well working with sugar. But if I start going beyond that hour, I've got to reserve a little bit of the glycogen, but I'm going to start to need and use more and more of the fat burning. So fat burning isn't really increased that effectively by just doing low intensity exercise. That's an old mistake. But if I do endurance type activities, I can increase my fat burning because I'm forcing my body to do so. And again, we can divide this up into different things. You don't need to necessarily do this all at the same time in the same workout. That usually doesn't work out that well. Usually within a week you can hit these different aspects. If you're training for something specific, then you do what's called periodization, and you might have certain periods of time when you're trying to build strength and stability, a certain period of time where you're building on aerobic capacity, a certain period of time where you're working on your functional movement, and a certain period of time where you're working on endurance. And again, we can divide this up even more, but the concept that I want you to understand is that different types of exercise will give you a different type of result. So go in with a plan. Sometimes it's okay to just walk in and do your own thing. That's an appropriate plan. But for most of the time, you want to know what you're going to do when you go to do your workout, what you want to accomplish, and hopefully you want to accomplish that. So this is Dr. Vince Bellonzi. Again, there's not one thing that you need to do for physical abilities and capabilities and structure. There's several things. Just like anything else, you want to do everything together and create better function. So this is Dr. Vince Bellonzi. We'll see you again on the next video. Thanks for listening.